everyone, welcome to the history virtual class. So today I am going to teach you the literary sources which help us to construct the Mauryan Empire. So without sources it is very difficult to construct the history of the past. That is why we need to focus more on those sources which are very important in order to understand the history of the Mauryan Empire. So today we'll discuss about the literary sources which constructs the history of Mauryan Empire. So altogether, as per your syllabus, we have to go through Arthashastra, Indica, okay, then Asokan edict is there, then Sanchi Stupa is there. These four things are to be studied as per your syllabus. So today we'll discuss mostly on this topic only. So in the previous class, I think you have watched it that we discussed about Alexander's invasion to India. Okay, Alexander of Macedonia had conquered a large part of northwest India and all. So that we'll discuss later on. But today, to understand more about the Mauryan Empire, we need to focus on the sources. The first important source is Arthashastra. So as you know that Arthashastra was written by Kautilya. You know about Kautilya. Kautilya also was known as Vishnugupta, or he was also known as Chanakya. So it was due to his help, Chanakya's help, Chandragupta Maurya rose to power and became successful in establishing the Mauryan Empire in India. Okay, so now let us discuss about Arthashastra, what is mentioned in it. Okay, so as you know that Arthashastra was written by Chanakya or Kautilya, or also known as Vishnugupta. Okay, so he was the prime minister in the court of Chandragupta Maurya. He gives the detailed description of the contemporary social, political and economic conditions of the kingdoms at that time. What was the social condition like, what was the economic condition like, what was the political conditions like are mentioned in Arthashastra. Okay, Arthashastra also talks about the duties of the king, his foreign policy and the organization of spies. You know spies, jasus. Okay, this about spies and organization is also mentioned in Arthashastra. The book was discovered in the year 1909 and was translated into English. Book was definitely it was written in other language, so it was translated in English, and after that it became the most valuable source to reconstruct the history of the Mauryan Empire. So once again, Arthashastra was written by Chanakya, also known as Kautilya or Vishnugupta. Okay, Arthashastra. The next one we have is Indica. So let me tell you, when Alexander invaded India and when he retreated back to his homeland, whatever territories were conquered by him was left over to his generals, and one of the general was Seleucus Nicator, and later on Seleucus Nicator was defeated by Chandragupta Maurya. Okay, but after that also Chandragupta Maurya maintained a very good relations with Seleucus Nicator. Okay, daughter of Seleucus Nicator was married to Chandragupta Maurya. Okay, so in that way the relation with the Greeks became more and more cordial. So Megasthenes was the ambassador of Greek ruler Seleucus in the court of Chandragupta at Patliputra. Patliputra now is known as Patta. So he remained in India for 14 years. In his book Indica, he has described the different aspects of Indian life, including the administration of the state, local administration and the life of the kings. So it is one of the most important source for knowing the details about the Mauryan dynasty. The original book is lost. The original book Indica is lost, but many experts survive in the writings of the later Greek authors such as Arrhenius, Strabo, Plutarch, and Diodorus and Justin. So on their basis, they try to find out. Okay, so that was Indica. So Indica has given a lot of information. So I think Arthashastra and Indica, these two books are the most important sources which help us to reconstruct the history of the Mauryan Empire. So Mauryan Empire, history of Mauryan Empire would be incomplete without Arthashastra and Indica. So Arthashastra was written by Chanakya and Indica was written by Megasthenes, who was the ambassador, Greek ambassador in the court of Chandragupta Maurya. Okay, so this is all about Indica. The next one we have is Ashokan Edict. EDICT, Ashokan Edict. So let me tell you what is edict. So edict is an official order or proclamation issued by a person in authority or a sovereign. Whoever is in authority or whoever holds sovereign power, he can issue an order or proclamation. That is known as edict. So Ashokan edicts form one of the most important source of the Mauryan period. These edicts of Ashoka are a collection of 33 inscriptions. 33 inscriptions carved on pillars as well as boulders, big boulders and cave walls. These are deciphered in different parts of Pakistan, Nepal, India. They provide important information about the extent of his empire, extent of Ashoka's empire, his religious policies and administration. So these are the sources which throws the light on the life and administration of Ashoka the Great. Okay, this edicts deals with Ashoka's Dhamma and instructions given to the officials of his kingdom. He later on, after the Kalinga war, he completely changed himself and he became the follower of Buddhism, and then he decided to propagate Buddhism and spread it to different parts of the world. Okay, so let us talk about the different types of edicts. These edicts are divided into pillar edicts, then major rock edicts written on the rocks. Okay, so major rock edicts, 14 edicts termed first to 14. Okay, 14 edicts are there. Minor rock edicts, small rocks edicts are also there. So the most of the rock edicts, major rock edicts 13 contains. Rock edict number 13 contains description of Ashoka's victory over Kalinga war. Victory over Kalinga. Though he became victorious, but that Kalinga war completely transformed his life. It is among the most important source of Ashokan history, my dear. It states that Kalinga war took place 8 years after he became the king. 150,000 people were taken prisoners, 100,000 were killed, and many more perished, many more disappeared. Kalinga was annexed by Ashoka, and on conquering it, he felt extreme remorse. He became very sad. Because the Kalinga war definitely brought a change. Whatever change, he saw bloodshed everywhere. People suffering everywhere. My side also people were suffering. The enemy side also people were suffering. The families were grieving on the death of the soldiers and all. So that transformed his life. He then, after that, in order to repent, my dear, he wanted to repent. So he then made a vow not to take up arms. After that, he never took up arms. He did not took up arms. Okay, that sound of war drums, whenever the soldiers after victory, when they return back, they come with drums, beating of drums. So the sound of drums were replaced by Dhamma Ghosha. Dhamma Ghosha, that means Dharma Ghosha. Okay, the sound of peace. Sound of peace. It signified the conquest through Dhamma instead of war. it signified the conquest through dhamma instead of war. So major rock edicts, one declares prohibition of animal sacrifices and the royal hunting. Royal hunting, animal sacrifices were all prohibited. That means he completely now started to believe in non-violence. So this happened because of Kalinga War. He fought one battle, and that battle, Kalinga War, completely transformed his life. And then he embraced Buddhism in his life, and he became the propagator of Buddhism. And it was due to his what you call it determination. Buddhism was preached in different parts of the country. So that is all about Ashoka. That is why he is known as great. So we can discuss about Ashoka's history more in the coming topics. So today we are only going to discuss about the literary sources, written records, written in the form of book, written inscriptions on the stones and the pillars. Okay. So rock edicts were also there. Okay. Now next one we'll discuss about is stupas. Next one is stupas. So many of you have gone to visit the stupas also. So one such stupa is there in Madhya Pradesh. It's a great stupa at Sanchi, that is in Madhya Pradesh. Consists of a circular base supporting a massive solid dome. The stupa is encircled by a railing and 4 gateways in 4 directions. 4 gates are there in 4 directions, which are richly decorated with the relief sculptures depicting Jataka tales, events in the life of Buddha and other popular mythological figures. So definitely based on Buddhism. So Buddhists related to Buddhism, like Jataka tales discuss about the Buddha life and all, right? So that is mentioned over there in the circular ones. Okay. So Buddha is represented by symbols such as people tree, lotus and wheel. That is also there in Sanchi Stupa. Okay. Now some of the characteristic features of Sanchi Stupa, my dear. Dome is covered by a masonry exterior and topped by a squared off platform known as a harmika that encloses a royal umbrella, that is chhatra, with a mast known as yasti at the top. The dome is placed atop an elevated platform. It is placed at the elevated raised platform, stairs leading clockwise from the ground level up to the circular walkway where the worshippers may circumambulate the dome. That means they can circumambulate the dome. That means circumambulate means to move around the dome. Okay. The whole stupa is enclosed by railing and elaborate gates that are built in front of each of the 4 cardinal points. So that is all about Sanchi Stupa. So if you get time after lockdown, go and visit Sanchi Stupa. Okay, so these are the 4 important sources, my dear. The first 2 are literary sources, and then second 2 which we discuss is archaeological sources. In our literary sources, Arthashastra is there, written by Chanakya or Kautilya. Then Indica is there, written by Megasthenes, and 2 of the archaeological sources include Ashokan edicts and then Sanchi Stupa. Okay, so edicts of Ashoka are the collection of 33 inscriptions, as I told you, carved on the pillars. Okay, as well as boulders, big boulders are there. That is these are all deciphered in different parts of Pakistan and Nepal and India. Okay, so these are the literary sources of the Mauryan Empire. Okay, so hope you understood the literary sources as well as archaeological sources. So before I end, let me tell you, without sources, whether it may be literary or archaeological, history cannot be constructed. History, as you know, is a study of the past, so we need certain proofs to reconstruct the past history. Like Harappan civilization, we need certain proofs, we discussed on that. So still we are lacking behind to understand more about the Harappan civilization, right? But the modern history, there is no problem. Lot of literary sources are there, so we don't have any problem. But to discuss about the ancient history, we depend mostly on the literary as well as the archaeological sources. So anyhow, these are the sources till today we have been going through. So we study from this about the Mauryan Empire. So in the next class, we'll discuss about the administration of the Mauryan Empire. How was the administration like in Mauryan Empire? So within Mauryan Empire, if we discuss, two important rulers are there to be discussed. Like first one is Chandragupta Maurya, who was the founder of a Mauryan Empire, and then Ashoka the Great. Okay, Ashoka the Great is there because after Chandragupta Maurya, his son Bindusara, nothing much is known about Bindusara. He did not achieve anything great in his life, so we don't discuss little bit. We'll discuss about Bindusara also. Then Bindusara's son Ashoka. So Ashoka was the grandson of Chandragupta Maurya. So Chandragupta was succeeded by his son Bindusara. Okay, and then Bindusara was succeeded by his son Ashoka. Okay, so that is all about these three. So we'll discuss about the life also, and then we'll discuss about the administration of the Mauryan Empire. How was the administration like during the Mauryan Empire? Okay, so we'll do that in the next class. Till then, take care, stay safe, bye bye.